We're back to the Neil Haley Show and special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and the Love Is podcast. I'm excited to welcome the host of the Love Is podcast, Kim Sorrell. Kim, how are you? I know you're excited about our guest.
Hi, Neil. How are you? I'm excited about our guest, Shari Rigby. Shari is a writer, a producer, an actor, a director, a mom, a wife, so many things, so many titles that she wears, and she wears them all so well. And director of a nonprofit, started a nonprofit to help women in Hollywood. I just love everything about you, Shari. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I don't even know. I can't even follow that up, Kim. That was just really great. Thank you so much. I am honored to be here with both of you. So just thank you for having me.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for being here. We're here to talk mostly about divine influencer, but I think you're a divine influencer yourself. Like so many things that you've been through, the things that you've done in life, the things you've done with hard things that you've been through that you are using for good. I always admire people who do that, who take the crap and do something great with it. And you're doing that, right?
Thank you.
So it's such a good thing. So I'm wondering what drew you to this particular movie?
Absolutely. Well, and that's a great question. This movie really was inspired by a place that I was involved in for years when I lived in Los Angeles called the Dream Center. It's Matthew and Caroline Barnett's ministry, and they house about 750 people there that come from all walks of life, whether homelessness, drug addiction, sex trafficking, you name it. And so you really got to see Christ in action because they were going out into the streets and serving people. And just with them being in this building, I was able to have so many interactions with them. And so what you saw, or what I was able to see, was that the Lord really, through redemption, restoration, and preparation for these people, when they began to understand who they served first, which was Christ, and then secondly, start to serve others with what God had given them, all of a sudden you started to see life change. And you really started to see them being able to do what God really intended them to do right from the beginning. And so we were inspired by the stories there. My writing, producing partner, Claire Lee, would come there and spend time with me at different events. Then we invited another woman who was part of this initial story, Susie Eldridge. And we were just inspired by the stories that continued to surface through there. And so what we decided to do through those stories, being inspired by them, seeing the heart change, we decided to take a situation today, our social media and influencers as we know it, and say, how do we take something that is really important to discuss and bring it into a place of positive and be able to share with who are you serving, how are you serving, and how are you doing it well in your community? And that's what Divine Influencer is all about.
Mixing two things really to develop that conversation, because again, when we talk about social media and how much it's being abused now by people spending 18, 19 hours a day on it, our young people today, where they're living on it and sometimes not even sleeping all night, it's a great way to bring this conversation out that we don't need this always. It's not something, it should be used for good purposes, not just for an addiction. And that's what is really becoming as a social media addiction for lots of people.
Absolutely. And that's such a great point, because we can use it for good and we can have the conversation. And I think that's the other thing with this movie is it's really for the family. You can watch this movie and have a great discussion with the younger ones to say, how are you influencing? What are you putting on social media? What are you looking at in social media? Who are you following that actually really inspires you to do good? And so we just felt like this was a powerful way to shape the story through some fun, through lighthearted, but yet really enduring characters that really do take you on a journey from going from not losing who she is as an influencer, not losing her gifts and talents, but actually using them where she's placed in this homeless shelter and understanding how she can actually do it better. And that's what you see Liv Golden do.
Yeah, well, something that Liv said that really struck me, and I thought it's probably a question a lot of people ask is when something like, God, can you use me? And I thought, oh my gosh, that's a powerful thing to say.
Yeah, you know what? That is, Kim, that is one of my also favorite scenes of the movie. And just watching her come across when she sees Ryan and they're praying, and she knows that, she sees that moment and she sees who this man is and him putting his heart out there, and really, because he's such a great example to her, right? Serving the people, loving this community. And then for her to go out there and she's sitting there and she's taking in this vastness of creation, and to have that moment to look up and to be in this moment where she says, can you use me? I mean, that's a question we all ask. Am I worthy enough? Do I have purpose? Do I have calling? Which is such another part of this movie, is like, we need to be sharing with people that there is a lot of identity issues right now, and God does call you into purpose, and he does see you, and he wants to use you.
Definitely does. And then you basically act as him to do the work. And that's such an important part of this, is understand we can create things out of nothing with God's help, and that's all we need. And we can do it and make a difference beyond belief. And that's what you hope the film will do, for sure, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We're really hoping that people catch that message and go, who am I following? The number one influencer, who is Jesus. And number two, who am I serving and doing it well, right in the community that I'm doing it with? Am I encouraging, empowering, or am I being destructive and destroying? And that's what we need to start actually asking as influencers, because really, technically, each and every one of us with a cell phone, a computer, we're all influencers. We all have an opportunity. If you're in a grocery store standing in line and you have an opportunity to influence somebody's life, you're an influencer. We all have the ability to influence another person's life.
So well said. I like that. You know, when I was a kid, there were no cell phones. My phone hung on the wall in our kitchen, right? And you dialed it, actually.
Yes, and you had the cord.
But you had the cord. It only went so far. You try to have a secret conversation, it was a little difficult. But now schools are letting kids bring their phone right into the classroom. And I think, well, I don't remember ever a time in all my years of school where there was an emergency that I had to have a phone with me, right? And
Right.
how did we get from there to here? Like, I don't understand why schools let kids have phones in the classroom. Like that boggles my mind. What do you think of that?
Absolutely. Well, as a mother, I can't even imagine, because I think to myself, even my own self, like when I'll go onto social media for a minute, or even if I'm looking on something up, online, and all of a sudden I'm distracted for 15, 20 minutes go by, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I have to go back in and kind of get back into gear again of what I'm doing. And I think that's the problem. I think that with kids being in the classrooms today, there's such a distraction. There's so many things. And so they're already distracted. We're already fighting that as parents, with a lot of the situations today in the culture. And so, to have the phone in there as well. I mean, you've got kids all the time that are sitting there with their phones in their laps. We're now dealing with the issue of AI. We're dealing with so many things. And we do want our kids to come out to be healthy. We want them to be able to actually engage and respond when they're asked. We want them to be able to know how to, the education system, did they actually graduate because they had the merits to do so, or were they using technology? I just think it's a distraction. It needs to be left outside of the classroom, really. And it's starting to get that way now in work. The last movie that I was on, it was a huge movie, and in fact, the first AD announced to everybody the day prior to going on to set, he said, if I see you on your cell phone, it is grounds for being fired. Because you're distracting and you're taking people's money, and you're not engaged in your job. And I thought, wow, I mean, and I think people are starting to go back to that and take some of those hard stances. And I actually think it's a very valuable thing for us to do.
Because people use it as a way to waste time, but then the information that comes out is really becomes all that. You could look at yourself and say, did I just waste this amount of time? What did I just do that for? I want that time back, because time is such an important treasure. And I think that, I mean, when I hear these stories of kids, as I said before, literally go on TikTok at like right before bed and don't go, and they stay up all night. And there are kids doing that. And that's really scary, because they're not getting the proper sleep, but also they're getting influenced by whatever's on TikTok for those short bites, short videos.
Absolutely. And such a great point. We just did a study on this not long ago, where it's the time in our country and our world in general that we have the most young women committing suicide because of social media. And the numbers are crazy high. It's all on identity and issues and struggling. they're talking, I just watched a documentary, where they're making decisions with their bodies in about 60 seconds of a TikTok video versus really understanding who and whose they are. And so we do have to be really cautious of that. And so I think that's why it's so important to have movies and people out there that are sharing about the positive influence. First and foremost, who's and who are you? You've been created for purpose, and how are you serving others? Because when you ultimately do serve others, you actually do influence. And it's God did that intentionally, because we do have a different approach to life when we're actually committed to working and humbling ourselves and serving others. And that's what these kids need to see more of.
Oh my gosh, you put it so well. You put it so well. We should just write that down and send it to every kid in the world, because it's so wise. And the truth is, there are positive influencers like you're talking
Absolutely.
about, so to take what can be bad and meant for bad and turn it and
Good.
make it something good. Man, what a great shift that is. Like, people need to know that there are great ways to positively use the social media as well. It's not all bad. Like a TV, there's good and there's bad, right?
Right.
Like the stuff that you're putting out is so good. I wish I had that kind of television for my kids when they were growing up, and I'm happy to have it for my grandchildren. But it's so powerful, but it's powerful in other ways too, the movie, because it's about redemption, and it's about coming from this place. She was broken. She went from wealthy to nothing, to zero, and wearing clothes, donated clothes, after buying anything she wanted, and recovered from that and became a different person because of what she went through.
Absolutely. I think that's the important message in this too, is there are second chances. And I love that she goes in there and doesn't become a completely different person, so to speak. She just uses what God gives her to affect and influence others. I mean, I think that was one of the most profound. Like, I loved filming the scene where Liv Golden is with the Carla character in the clothing closet. It's a very simple place, kind of this thrift store, but the message of it was so powerful, because it was really what she could do to serve this other woman coming in there, and to do it still with what God had given her in these talents and gifts. And really, for a woman to, I mean, you see it on her face. She puts a jacket on that all of a sudden just elevates her and makes her feel like something she's never felt before. And she can now face the world in a different way. And wow, what an incredible way to influence others through, just some of the smallest things, and the humility of serving them right where they're at. And I love that about, and Lotta Silva, she just played that character so well. You fall in love with her, and you go on that journey, and you want to do what she's done.
And the movie's available on Great American Pure Flix. That is exciting to hear about the rebrand. I like the name a lot. Yeah. Tell us specifically when it's available.
Absolutely. It streams September 15th on greatamericanpureflix.com. And we're hoping everybody will go on. If they don't have a membership, get a membership. If they do, go on and stream it, share it with your friends and your family. It is a great movie for all ages. And September 15th, that's the day to make sure that you get out there and you support this movie and log on and watch it.
So
basically, we've kind of talked like sadness a bit here, but honestly, it's such a fun movie. It's really a fun movie to watch, right? I mean, there's funny parts, there's, parts that make you tear up a bit, but it's such a great movie. It's just a fun movie to watch, and with a great message at the same time.
Thank you.
All right.
Love it. We laugh.
That's great. And the feedback, you've been getting feedback. How's the feedback been from the film for people who've screened it already?
Oh my goodness, it's been so good. People are like, this is just a fantastic movie. They love the characters. They love the message, the talent that came in to play the characters, Lotta Silva and Jason Berkey, Jesse Medcalf, Princess Elmore, Michael Lynn Hansen. I mean, these people really stepped into these roles and just were really fantastic at the characters they played. Rebecca Kuhn, and the people love it. They absolutely love it. They love the locations and the wardrobe. I mean, they've just been so encouraging through the whole process. And I think one thing too that was brought up recently was that Divine Influencer is actually helping to launch Great American Pure Flix, the new brand. And so we are thrilled that we were chosen to do that. And what better way to do that than to do it through a movie like Divine Influencer?
Right. Well, we appreciate it. Thanks again for stopping by.
Thank you. Thank you, Neil and Kim. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. That was a special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and the Love Is podcast, guys. Take care.